Hello, and welcome to another Monday session of meditation. So, thanks for joining us, all the occupiers of White City Place. And yeah, it's really nice to connect this way each week with meditation. Yeah, and I wanted just to share with you the reasons why it's really important, more than ever, to meditate. And I do mention this a lot in my sessions. And one is that we learn to respond to life rather than react to certain situations. But that's sort of from a mental state. And there is a physiological reason why we meditate as well. But before I go into that, I wanted to talk about how, 400 years ago, it was suggested that the mind and the body were two separate things. So all of this activity happened up here in our heads, and anything spiritual was just in the head, and the body was a separate part, an isolated part. And really, since then, up until very recently, that's been the belief that the mind is separate to the body. And the reason that we know it's not separate to the body is through discovery, through scientific discovery. So we know that, for example, your gut sends messages to your brain through the vagus nerve, and the brain also sends messages to your gut through the vagus nerve. And so this is like a double highway information track between the brain and the gut. So they talk to each other. And the same is true of the heart as well. So the heart sends more messages to the brain than the brain sends to the heart, which might surprise you, but that is true. So clearly, they are not isolated parts at all. And we know that also through the physiology. So I was going to talk about that. So, stress is a reaction on our physical body that starts off with a perception. So the way that we either view life or life happens at us. We're in a stressful situation, we're worrying about stuff, whatever the stressful situation might be, that has a physiological response. How? Because it travels down. We see something. We'll start off at the very beginning. You say you see something. Let's just say it's a stressful thing that you're watching on TV, just to make it simple. So you see that with your eyes, and that sends a message to two areas in your brain: your hippocampus, which is like I like to call the hippocampus like a Google search, right? You can find, you store all your information, you remember things, it stays in your hippocampus. Taxi drivers, for example, have really large areas of grey matter in their hippocampus because they have to remember all these, particularly London cabbies, have to remember all these streets and mazes of towns. So they have a very evolved hippocampus. And because your body's very clever as well. It'll only use what it needs to use. So if you're not using something that needs memory, like a taxi driver, all the time, then your body and your brain go, okay, well, that's using energy that I don't need to send there. So I will use that for something else. So that's one area of the brain. The other area of the brain is the amygdala, and that's two little kidney-shaped organs in your head, which are just above your ears, if you need to know where they are. And that is your in your emotional center, but it's more kind of fear-driven. So your amygdala decides on your reaction, pretty much. it'll send a reaction. It'll be something like, let's say we're walking through, a woods out in bear country, where there's lots of dangerous things in the woods, and you see something on the floor, and it's kind of wriggle shaped, and you think, oh my goodness, it's a snake. All right, you just see this thing, and your first reaction is, alarm, that could be a snake. And this is your amygdala, which actually helps to keep you safe as well. But it's your amygdala going, oh, alarm, that could be a snake. At the same time, your little Google Research Center in your hippocampus is going, okay, what does that shape look like? What have I seen before that looks like that shape? Maybe it's a stick. And that message goes to your prefrontal cortex, which is this part here in your brain, which is rational. But it makes a decision. It goes, yes, of course it's a stick. It's all good. The amygdala settles down. Like, oh, that doesn't need to do anything anymore. It's okay, it's a stick. So that settles down. But what that also does is when you are stressed, so that's a little tiny moment of stress. Stress can be for any reason at all. We all have different barometers of stress. So that little area of stress, that little small time of stress where you thought you saw a snake, or it could be a snake, that alerts your sympathetic nervous system. Now, your vagus nerve is this nerve that travels from your brain all the way down to your gut. And depending on whether you have a stressful response or a more relaxed response, the nervous system will actually act accordingly to the organs on the way down towards your gut. So, in other words, if you're having a stressful situation and it was an alarm, your sympathetic nervous system would be alerted, and that is your fight or flight. So there's quite a lot of things that happen, but I'll just give you a couple of examples. One is that will go down the ANS, the autonomic nervous system, which has the parasympathetic nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system, and your vagus nerve. And it'll say, okay, stress response. And so that speeds up the heart so that more oxygen can be taken in the blood. It sends more oxygen around the blood, around the body. It will also go to your gut, which will stop digestion because you don't want to be using energy on digesting food when you have to run away from a bear or the snake or whatever your stressful situation might be. Those are just two things. There are many, many more. Your eyes bulge, your eyes dilate, and you have adrenaline. So adrenaline is that kick of speed. It's like a shockwave that goes through you that makes you able to fight or flight very quickly. So, of course, the reverse is also true. When you are relaxed, your heart rate slows down, so little signals come to your heart, slows it down. And also you are able to digest food because everything's cool. You sleep better. Anyway, why am I telling you all this? Because this is just to highlight how there's a physiological response to stress in your brain. So the mind and the body work together all the time, and it's really nice to think of them as one. So meditation is more important than ever right now. I really, really believe that. When we know it has this physiological response, we are then able to learn to self-regulate. So we need to learn to self-regulate. And what that means is we learn to look after ourselves, really. So meditation is a really great start in looking after ourselves, because when we meditate, we get a little bit closer to who we really are. So we learn to tap into our instinct, our intuitive selves, so that we make the right decisions for us, because we are unique. We're all unique. We're all together in this, but we are all unique facets of this globe, this planet of beautiful people. We're all just little facets of that. So very unique. We all need different things. And how do you find out what you need unless you go inward? Now, you will have seen or heard of, I'm sure, the movie that's doing the rounds at the moment, Our Social Dilemma. And if you haven't, it's all about really like Big Brother, having information about us through all our social, through everything that we put on the computer, everything that we look at, everything that we Google, everything that we respond to, particularly on Facebook. One day you might be having a conversation with a friend about, I don't know, traveling to a country, let's just say Spain. And then suddenly you're flicking through Facebook and you see Spain keeps coming up. You're like, wow, that's a real coincidence, That's happening a lot. So it's happening more and more and more, and you think, did I say that or did I write it down? And basically, there is so much information online on our phones as well. I mean, we carry our phones around with us all the time, so people can always check our GPS. And the more that artificial intelligence takes over, the more important it is to know who we really are. We don't want artificial intelligence to tell us who we are because of what we've programmed into a computer subconsciously, or maybe even fully consciously. We don't want that. There is no robot that can tell you who you are better than yourself, even though that would be argued. You know yourself better than anybody else. Remember, you're unique. So this idea of data defining who you are just based on previous research and a generic idea, even though it's incredibly clever, isn't who you are. So it's really important to be intuitive, to get in touch with who you are, and also not be sucked in, and meditation is proven to help so many stages of illness, of recovery, but just going about your everyday business. When you learn to respond to life rather than react, then you're coming from a place within, rather than when we do a knee-jerk response to life, we're generally we're not thinking straight, or we're not thinking deep enough. We're just doing this kind of what's the word I'm trying to think of, when we're kind of conditioned response. The more we do something, things become habitual. That's another, there you go, there's another way to think about it. Everything that you do, the way you get up, you go to work, you put on your clothes, you eat your breakfast, you don't even think about half of it, because it's kind of conditional. It's kind of what you're used to. It becomes really habitual. So that's a really nice thing to look at when you wake up in the morning. Try and stop yourself just rolling into the same little format, the same routine that you do every day. So that could be just pausing before you get out of bed. Maybe even, this is something that Deepak Chopra actually mentioned in one of his books that I've read. If you stare at the ceiling for a moment or two, actually a minute before you get out of bed, you are just staring at nothingness. And sometimes you need that nothingness transition between sleep and then going on to your day, into life. So it's quite a funny one, but it's quite a cool thing, because you just open your eyes, you stare at the ceiling for about a minute, you just feel a little bit more collected. And then, maybe notice a little bit more when you're having breakfast. Maybe change your breakfast. Maybe have your tea out of a different cup. Or going to work, if you walk to work or you cycle to work, maybe trying a different route. You go to a yoga class, put your mat down in a different part of the room. Don't go to the same place all the time. You get my drift. We become habitual. So just the more we are habitual, the more we are conditioned, the more likely we are to react, as opposed to respond from a deeper place. So I hope all that made sense. I'm going to start meditation now. That's what you're here for. So just get yourself nice and comfortable. Just make sure that you maybe have your back supported. It's really easy to kind of slump when you're meditating. So if you have your back supported, like I'm sitting on a chair, so if I just lean back, my back is supported now. You can sit on the floor. If you're kind of oscillating between sitting cross-legged on the floor and sitting in a chair, then you could always sit on the floor with your back up against a wall or the side of the bed or your sofa or wherever it is that you sit. When I meditate outside, if I'm not sitting on grass, where I'm sitting cross-legged for a while, then I'll sit on a park bench, has my back. Quite literally has my back. So just make sure you're comfortable. Close your eyes. And I don't want you to think about meditating at all. I just want you to be here. And just allow yourself to feel. And just allow yourself to breathe normally. You don't have to change anything. Just be in this moment. Don't even think about trying to meditate. And now see if you can start to notice your breath without changing it. Quite often when we think about our breath, we automatically try and change it. So just see if you can be like a third-party observer and just notice the very simple in and very simple out of your breath, whether you're breathing through your nose. If you can breathe through your nose, that's the best way to breathe. If your nose is bunged up, then of course use your mouth. Or if you can breathe through your nose but you struggle with it, then it's good maybe then to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. So just play around with it until you're comfortable. If you habitually breathe through your mouth but you can breathe through your nose, then try and switch it to your nose. Your nose has got lots of little filters in it. And then just take your attention to the length of your breath and the depth of your breath. Is it long? Is it short? Is it deep or shallow? If you're already quite relaxed, it might be quite shallow, and that's fine. But however the breath is, just notice if your chest or your belly is expanding very slightly with your in-breath and retracting with your out. It's a very subtle feeling. You don't have to breathe too deeply to make that happen. And then we're going to take our attention to our right heel, so the heel of your right foot. You don't have to do anything with it, you just take your attention to that part. And now the inside arch of your right foot. Your right big toe. Your second toe. Your middle toe. Your fourth toe. Your little toe. And the skin on top of your foot. Your right ankle. See if you can soften your ankle, let go of any tension or muscles you might be contracting, holding on to. Maybe your ankle is in a funny position. Just relaxing there. And then going to your right calf. Heavy, heavy calf. The right shin bone. And your right knee, the muscles below the knee, above the knee, and behind the knee. And then over to your left heel, the heel of your left foot, the arch of your left foot, your left big toe, second toe, the third toe, fourth toe, little toe, and the skin on top of the foot, and your left ankle, easing there. Your left calf heavy. Your left knee below your knee, above your knee, behind your knee. And then your right hip, your left hip, your sitting bones, and gravity pulling you into your seat, whether that's the floor or a chair, wherever you are. And then taking your mind's eye to your sacrum, just at the bottom of your spine, and then just following that up the vertebral column all the way up to your neck. And then just imagine that somebody is gently resting their hands on your shoulders. Just feel them fall away from your ears. Shoulder blades are relaxed. And then going down your right arm, your right elbow, and your right wrist. If your hands are resting on your lap or the chair or a table or the floor or the bed, wherever you are, just turn them over so the palms are facing up. I'm going to bring your attention to your fingers. And as I mention each digit, try not to move it, but see if you can feel each digit in isolation to the other. It's a challenge not to move your fingers to feel them, but just see if you can feel them from the inside out, and I'll guide you through. So allowing your right wrist to soften, relax. And just take your awareness to your right thumb. And then move on to your right index finger. And then to the middle finger, the fourth finger, and the little finger. Then to the skin in the palm of your hand. And then just holding on to that, we're going to pass over to the left side. So coming onto your left elbow. Your left wrist, relax there, palm facing up. Your left thumb, your left forefinger, the middle finger, the fourth finger, and the little finger. And then the skin, the palm of the hand. Then taking your awareness to both hands, just feeling both hands, the skin on the palm of both hands. Sometimes just by bringing your attention there, you can feel pins and needles, or maybe you're just aware of the energy above your hands. Maybe just the air, or maybe nothing at all. It might just be feeling the backs of the hands on the lap. But just bring your awareness to both of your hands. And just taking a note of any sensations at all, anything at all. And then just taking your attention back up to your neck where we left off before. And then in your mind's eye, just tracing a line from up your neck over the back of your skull, right up to the crown of your head, and just pause there. So imagine somebody has just been tapping on the crown of your head and taken their fingers away now. But you're left with that feeling, that sense of the crown of your head. So just take your attention there, as if you're feeling the crown of the head from the inside out, that area. You might imagine that area as a square or a rectangle, like a patch or a circle, whatever comes to mind. It's not important. And then just following down your forehead to your eyes, relaxing the eyelids, relaxing the eyeballs. Your jawline relaxes. Just with your tongue just sitting in the lower palate of that. Now just noticing how you're breathing without any effort at all. Just allow yourself to continue breathing the way that you were when you were scanning your body and not thinking about your breath. Just keep that going. Take your attention to the back of your eyelids, and whatever you can see there, keeping your focus on that, whether it's a color or a shape, moving images, whatever it might be. If a thought comes into your mind, that's absolutely fine. Just remind yourself to come back to behind your eyelids and see what's happening there. Now we are going to do a little bit of conscious breathing. I'm going to count you in, but what we're going to do is we're going to breathe in for a count of 5. We're going to hold the breath in for a count of 5, and then we're going to let the breath go as slowly as we can for a count of 8. We're going to do that 3 times. So when you're ready, let go of all of your breath. So even if you just breathed out, breathe out some more. There's always more. And then breathing in, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold it, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now slowly out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let it go. Take a normal breath in and out. And then again, counting in, 2, 3, 4, 5. Holding, 2, 3, 4, 5. And out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Normal little breath in and out. And again, breathing in, 2, 3, 4, 5. And hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. And out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just breathing normally. Staring at the back of the eyes, whatever comes up. Just taking it in. Now, I want you to imagine that your best friend, whether that's your partner, a parent, a friend, colleague, whoever that is, whoever you can really, really trust and love, imagine that they are sitting opposite you with their eyes closed. So just take a moment to imagine your person sitting opposite you right now. I want you to imagine that every in-breath fills you up with love, and every out-breath, you slowly pass that love to your friend. Imagine them breathing it in as you breathe in. And as they breathe out, they're passing the love back to you. So this is just a nice way of showing compassion to somebody else that you can trust. So every in-breath, just imagine the feeling of love or joy, that lovely feeling that fills you up. You don't even need to remember a situation. You could just, the feeling, you've had this feeling before of happiness, of love, of absolute joy, where it really fills you. So you breathe in that feeling. And then you're looking at your friend behind your eyelids who's opposite you doing the same. You're breathing out that love and just sending it to them. They're breathing it in as you breathe out. And as they breathe out, you're breathing in. So it's a little bit like a seesaw or a swing. Just swinging that love back and forward to the person opposite you, whoever it is. And if it helps to say the word, you can just repeat the word. Or it might be love, it might be respect, it could be friendship, it could be energy. But it's the idea of feeling them close as you take this little exercise, bringing them into your consciousness, bring them into your mind. And really feeling that love as you give it out and as you receive it. Keep hold of that feeling and imagine there are 30 people sitting behind your friend. You don't know who they are, and it doesn't matter. You're still sending this message of love to everybody behind your friend and your friend. And then you realize that this is a mirror image and you have the same thing behind you, 30 or more people behind you. Doesn't matter who they are, you don't have to know them, but they are also receiving that love that you are. So you're giving and receiving that love and compassion on a much bigger scale. If you want to give that feeling a color, then maybe whatever color is showing behind your eyelids right now is a good color for you to associate this feeling with. And now you can let go of that swing, let go of the person opposite you and all the people there and behind you. Just let go of all of that. And just come into your own space behind your eyelids with that same feeling, holding on to that feeling. And then you can just choose a word that you are wanting to imbue in your life. So if it could be focus, it could be clarity, it could be that you want more love, it could be that you want more confidence, it could mean that you want more health. Whatever it is that you feel like you need right now, you can bring it in by saying, I am. So I am loved, or I am confident, I am clear. These are just ideas. You can just choose one or three, however many you want. I am grateful. These are just suggestions. I am happy. I am well. I am content. I am good at what I do. I am sociable. Whatever it is, I'm kind, I'm wise. Choose 1 to 3 and just say I am, and then your word or words, like a mantra, just repeating them in your head with that same feeling that you just got from your friend, from that feeling of love. Just repeating the mantras to yourself and holding on to that lovely feeling while you're saying them, repeating them over in your mind. If you forget what the words are, don't worry about it. Just come back to maybe one of them. If you get really stuck, you can always bring yourself just back to your eyelids, or if your thoughts distract you, always tune back to the eyelids. The eyelids can be a little bit like a home page, if you like. And then you can just let those words go, but keep hold of the feeling as you bring yourself out of your meditation. Keep hold of that feeling. It's a physical feeling, so you don't need to kind of think about it so much. You just feel it. And then as you come out of your meditation, just really slowly start to open your eyes. So you're gently letting light back in. As you bring yourself back into the world. It's a little bit like getting up in the morning. You know, you want to have that space that we talked about at the beginning. You know, a good minute or two just to really transition back. You don't want to shock your body into meditation, but you can't really. But you certainly don't want to shock it out of it either. So hopefully you have enjoyed that, and I will be here for you same time next week.